Templeton Board of Selectmen to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item that we have on our agenda is the Town Administrator's Report.
Members of the board, last week was spent entirely with the move. Nothing else was accomplished, frankly, by me. Although I think it was a successful move, and considering that it was done within the span of a couple of months, I think it was just remarkable. And I would thank all those people who were involved, particularly the member of the board here, Doug, and his wife, Diana, and I know Julie. Actually, Julie was there today doing some cleanup, and I asked her if she ran for the Board of Selectmen or for custodian, and she said she wasn't quite sure. And others were there, obviously. We've all been there. That was the business of last week. I did, we'll go later on, I did put together a 6-month calendar of activities, mostly financial deadlines that we are going to meet, and also deadlines for some hiring that we need to do in the financial office. I also met with the chief of police, the new chief of police. We discussed terms. We have an agreement. I have it here, but I don't have an electronic copy. This was the template that was used in 2010, and I can't scan yet. So everything is working well, but some equipment is not hooked up. So he took this document back and is going to scan it at the PD, and I'll get a copy tomorrow morning, and we can go from there. So I guess there's no need to vote tonight on that, and I did the other contract that you had requested me to do. And well, I can go through our deadlines here whenever you would like me to, now or later.
Now is fine.
Okay. Tax bills have already been sent out. That's to say, preliminary tax bills for fiscal 2015, which begins tomorrow. That's important. The way it works, for those who are not familiar, is our tax bills are sent quarterly. In the first 2 quarters, the town sends out estimated tax bills. And then during that first that 6 months period, the first 6 months of the fiscal year, the town files the necessary documents with the Department of Labor, Schedule A, which is part of the so-called tax rate recapitulation sheet. And when those documents are in order, submitted to the Department of Revenue and approved, the town will then have a certification of free cash, and secondly, will be permitted to set the tax rate. And according to the schedule here, we'll do that in a timely way. Typically, the tax rate would be set in early December, most communities, early December, so that the tax bills that go out in January are the actual tax bills, adjusted up or down depending upon the tax rate that is certified from the Department of Revenue. The next, I think, main activity we have is to advertise for a town accountant. That ad will go into the press on the 7th of July. Matt Angel is doing excellent work for us, but he is a consultant and has said all along that he cannot stay beyond Labor Day. And so we need to get busy to advertise and interview and hire a permanent town accountant. On July the 15th, we close the books for the current fiscal year. So any last details, any last bills that the departments have to be submitted in time for the closing on July the 15th. On July 28th, we will close applications for town accountant. That'll be a 3-week period of advertising, mostly it would be in the Beacon, online, the Mass Municipal Association publication online. That's where everyone looks who is interested in a job. August 1st, the accountant and the assessors begin work on Schedule A, meaning they update information for the Department of Revenue on fee revenue and charges that the town has collected over the past year. First quarter tax bills are due on August 1st. The Department of Revenue suggested during our recent crisis that we should have a budget workshop with them. They want to come out, sit with the financial team and the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator and just discuss the upcoming budget year. They want to be reassured that our budget is balanced, and it is, and also to talk about our budget process for the year. So I have tentatively scheduled that for Monday, August the 4th. If the board would like to do that later or early, I guess we could do it earlier as well, let me know. But I put that down for the 4th, and I'll be, if this is a satisfactory date, I'll be in touch with the Department of Revenue to get to mobilize them to come out for that time. This would probably take up an hour and a half or so of a selectmen's meeting that night, okay? On the 6th, I would expect to interview for a town accountant, the applicants for town accountant. On the 25th of August, I will start work on a 10-year revenue projection, basically looking back 5 years at town revenue and attempting to project forward what we expect for town revenue in the coming 5 years. There's always some issues of accuracy with projections, but I think I found that having some rough idea of what kind of revenue the town is going to have over the next 5 years is very useful in the current budget process. So that's that's a very, I've done that before, it's very time consuming, but you gather an enormous amount of financial data, and it's also just good to have. So on September the 2nd, the assessors will begin work on the tax rate recap sheet. And also on the 3rd, after Labor Day, I think we should advertise for a permanent treasurer collector. Begin that process, assuming that we will have a town accountant on board. That's the critical office right now, but then clearly we need a permanent treasurer and collector. On the 22nd, I'll present that 10-year revenue forecast or projection to the Board of Selectmen at one of your meetings. September 30th, the end of year report is required from the town. That goes to Department of Education, and it's about school information and data. October 13th is Columbus Day. I didn't know that you named a holiday for a member of the Board of Selectmen.
Most important holiday of the year.
It is. Yes. October 15th, the Selectmen will begin the actual budget process by establishing some guidelines for the coming fiscal year. That'll be fiscal 2016. In other words, they'll have the projected revenue, and looking at the revenue that we expect to get, Selectmen establish guidelines, following which town administrator will send out spreadsheets to departments, asking them to prepare budgets within the guidelines established by the BOS. October 20th, budget worksheets will be sent to the department heads. October 31st, assessors begin work on the tax recap, and they should get it in as soon as they can in November so that we can get certified and get our tax rates set. Also submit Schedule A. This is part of the tax recap. By November 3rd, the departments will have submitted worksheets, budget requests to the administrator, and I will begin working on November the 4th to prepare a draft budget. That work will consume from November the 4th until, well, basically the end of the month, until November the 26th, when I will submit the draft budget to the Board of Selectmen. They will then have from the 26th of November until the 3rd week in January to review the draft, make changes up or down, and eventually to adopt that budget. And the draft that I give them then becomes the budget of the selectmen. And on the 3rd week in January, which would be the date that I've put down here, still reviewing the budget. 26th, yes, 26th of January, the budget of the selectmen is submitted to the advisory board. They then begin their review process in preparing for the town meeting in May. That's the process that I've outlined. I would ask the board to, if you have any suggestions, you want changes, obviously these are just suggested dates. Let me know, and I can make the revisions on the calendar.
I know there had been some talk at town meeting about possibly going for a smaller override in the fall.
Okay?
I don't know
Yeah.
what the board's wishes are, or if that's something we were gonna entertain or consider. I know at our last meeting, we talked about lifting the hiring freeze. We can lift the hiring freeze, but there's no money in the budget to hire anyone. So, I don't know what your feelings are, if that's something we should try to look at.
To incorporate into
To
the...
incorporate into this calendar so that we have an idea of what we're doing.
Can you speak a little louder, Julie, please?
I will try. I do much better with, that's for this, that guy. I know. No, I was talking about discussing as a board whether we wanted to schedule to see if we wanted to do an override, a smaller override for this fiscal year. Because there's discussion of lifting the hiring freeze at the last meeting. And we can lift the hiring freeze, but that's not going to do anything because we don't have any money to hire anyone. So if we lift the hiring freeze with the intention of trying to bring back some positions, fill positions that were not filled, then we're going to need money to do that. And the one way to do that is with an override.
Does anyone have any thoughts about that? Obviously, we would put that on a separate agenda to actually vote, but any thoughts on keeping that in mind for the calendar?
Yes.
No.
I've heard talk of that too, and I've thought of that, and I think, well, lifting the hiring freeze isn't gonna do any good, so my thought is we leave it for right now, but to really look at, is the smaller government working? Is it not? What's absolutely necessary? How much would we need? Not to, go overboard or, but yeah, I agree with Julie.
I also agree that the hiring freeze should stay in place for now until we really evaluate and determine, where we need to go.
Yep.
I am in favor that whether we actually pursue an override or not, putting it into the calendar. If we have it at least in the calendar, people are aware of it, the school can plan around it, other activities can be planned around the date. I do think, as I said last year when we were doing the budget, that if we do little overrides that are manageable for people to do and have a specific purpose for those smaller overrides, I think we could be successful at doing that. So I agree with the idea.
And this fall, we do have 2 state elections that we can piggyback on if we so choose. There's primaries in September and the generals in November. So those are 2.
I think looking at some of the capital improvement projects too, what money is, how much is it, what money would be needed for that, you know. I mean, that would incorporate maybe needing an override also, but, you know, really taking a hard look at that.
Did you?
I
I just, I think if we get involved in looking at the override, we have to really target specific needs and then take the time between, you know, like the next few months to determine the areas where we really need to have more resources.
Senator Ken, I think there may be some confusion about capital improvements because starting tomorrow, I met with the highway superintendent today. 11 major projects are going to be undertaken in town during this construction season. So the town will nearly be paralyzed with street reconstruction work. And some folks might say, well, if you don't have any money, why are you doing this? The answer is very simple. 100% of the money that's going to be used for the 11 street projects is state money.
Right.
So-called Chapter 90 money that the highway superintendent has been saving for about 3 years.
I was personally talking about not that piece of it, but other, like, actual building stuff or not the Chapter 90 funds.
And I think one thing that will help us with an override will determine when we close 14,
Right.
okay? Because we couldn't close 13. We couldn't present a good case or
Right.
argument on what we were doing. So closing 14 is critical toward planning for an override.
Is there any further discussion on the calendar? Okay. If not, thank you very much, Mr. Merkel, for your work on that. The next action or agenda item we have is action on contract for town administrator. We all have a copy of an employment agreement which covers a 1-year period. It is, to summarize, it's basically an extension of what we currently operate under for the next year. It's not an hourly position, but basically a salaried position with compensation being at the rate of $1,000 per week, which will obviously be under what we have budgeted for that position while we continue to work through our way through this ongoing financial process and get ourselves on sound ground to be able to really reach out to find a full-time, permanent town administrator. But I don't know if you had anything. Yep.
Yeah, I drew this so that there's a couple of key parts to this. One says that we're not going to focus on hours, but the responsibility of the town administrator is to get the job done effectively and thoroughly and take whatever time is required to do it. That's a general rule, I think, in every community. You're responsible to get the work done. See to it that the administrative side of town government is done effectively and thoroughly. And then secondly, if the Board of Selectmen are, for any reason, unhappy or really unhappy, I would draw your attention to Section 1, number 1.2. It says, nothing in this agreement shall prevent, limit, or otherwise interfere with the right of the board to rescind the appointment of the interim town manager. So you have, and if you're able to hire in the meantime, I mean, there can be a smooth transition.
Before we open up for discussion, do I have a motion to accept the contract and to execute the contract?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, okay. And any discussion? If not, Julie,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
and I will vote yes as well. So I have one here if you want to use as an official. Welcome aboard again.
Thank you. I hear you have a balanced budget.
Sure.
You can have Holly notarize it.
That's right, she's a notary.
Yeah.
Says town clerk.
Save this one. The next item that we have on the agenda, we've already discussed, which is the action on contract for the chief of police, so we'll put that off until we have copies, as the town administrator explained, but the details have been worked out. We will just hold off on voting. Discuss the hiring of a permanent town accountant. Did we address everything that needs to be addressed in that, or?
If you're satisfied with the date, I'm suggesting we do that right after Labor Day.
Sure. Does anyone have any comments or?
I don't have a copy of the job description. You get those?
Sure.
Yes, I can.
Yep.
And have you reviewed the job description, Bob? Do you
Yes.
think it needs any changes, or?
Well, yes. I mean, we have to put the two pieces together, treasurer and collector.
Oh,
So we
wait.
have
No,
to.
on the accountant.
The accountant.
On the
was at
accountant.
August, right?
No, I haven't done that yet.
Mhm.
I will do it.
All right, no, so the town accountant, that's the one we're on now.
All right,
So that was July 7th.
7th?
yes. So I'll give you copies of the description, we'll look it over and
Sure. We can add that
see if
to our
it needs
next.
to be updated.
Sure. The next item is to discuss the treasurer-collector position. This one will obviously be more involved because it will involve the combining of the two job responsibilities into the positions that were voted at town meeting and within the budget that was approved at town meeting. And we have, that is listed on our calendar to occur after we've taken on the project of determining who the new town accountant will be and hiring that individual. Does anyone have any questions or any concerns that they want to raise about the?
So are the position, the job descriptions going to be combined? Did I not hear? Are
That-
you
yeah.
going to work on that and then send that
Yes.
to us? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure. Anything else? If not, the next item on the agenda is to discuss the light and water payroll and vendor warrant agreement.
I had an email message from the general manager, John Driscoll, to call. I called, we talked about this item, and he asked me to convey to the board that he and the head of the commission would like to come and discuss the matter directly with the Board of Selectmen. I suggest the next meeting of the Board of Selectmen, and he said he thought that timing would be good, so recommendation would be to postpone this until the next regular meeting.
Okay, sounds great. The next item on the agenda is to discuss,
Before we
oh,
do
sorry,
that
sure.
item, I do think we need to contact other towns or whatever and
Mhm.
find out about signing the light and water warrants.
Warrants.
Again, since we're not voting their budget, at town meeting, and the select board is, held responsible for what's voted at town meeting, we need to have clear understanding of, what's our, requirement and responsibility for signing those light and water warrants. Because we are in the next fiscal year now, so we did not vote their budget this time.
Right. Is there anything else? Okay, If not, our next item is to discuss account opened to offset cost of design for Templeton Elementary School project.
Yeah, I had asked for this to be put on the agenda.
Mhm.
Diane, you had mentioned at a prior meeting in the spring that there was fundraising to offset the cost of the design phase.
Yep.
And how did, like, where did that money go that was
They
raised?
have, okay, I don't know exact specifics, but I did ask about that.
Yeah.
They have an account that they're putting it into, and it's all marked and tagged. It is specifically for, I thought, fundraising efforts, or I asked if it was designated. It wasn't necessarily a special account, but it's going into an account and it's all marked, you know, with people's names, who's giving the money, et cetera, et cetera. So that when, you know, I did ask her about that.
All right, now, was that money raised to offset the amount?
For the debt
you know,
exclusion.
For the debt exclusion? Okay,
Yep.
all right.
And we
So-
can.
Did you
sorry.
want something more specific from her to be
Well,
sent
I-
to all of us? Because I can,
Yeah.
I have no problem emailing her and asking. I had just asked to, because someone, I think somebody from the public asked me also, in
Okay.
addition to you, and I was like, well, we should know about that. I don't recall if she ever sent anything out, but,
I don't remember seeing anything.
Yeah,
so
I'll
I was
ask her
just-
too.
I was just curious
I'll
how,
ask about
what
that.
mechanism we use to
Can you use the
offset.
mic- Can you use the mic between each person, because you can't hear in the back.
Oh,
You speak soft, so you either got to speak like I do,
All right,
or
give it a
use the
shot.
mic, please.
All right.
All right.
The mics are connected to an amplification system.
It's,
What's this for the?
It's for the recording,
It's for the television
for
recording.
TV. So I can talk, I can yell into this thing.
I can
Yeah,
hear
you
you
still-
now.
All right,
Can't
I'm
hear
sorry.
back
That's the way, you know, I'm not trying to mumble. What we were talking about was the amount of money raised through donations to offset the debt exclusion for the elementary school for the design phase.
there.
So we haven't had an accounting of that amount of money. And Diane said that she was going to contact the superintendent,
you want a dollar amount too?
a dollar amount, and then we have to
Yep.
figure out what is it a special town meeting article to do a transfer? I don't understand how
Okay.
that money goes from where it is in the school to offsetting the money for the design phase.
Okay, I will, yeah, I'll send that.
Yep.
Okay.
It would seem like as when we do transfers from light and water, whatnot, that the school, I would assume the school committee would have to approve the transfer, and then the town would have
Have
to,
to take
at
it.
town meeting, approve the
Approve it,
transfer as
right.
well.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll take care of that.
Yeah. So, and then we can discuss that again, find out discuss what information we received at our next
Okay.
meeting.
Thank you. Yep.
Next, discuss handicap ramp options. I'm assuming that's you.
Yes, that's me. We did get the money and the article approved at town meeting for the $10,000 to build a handicap ramp over at the new town offices. During the process of, getting things ready, Kirk and Kevin Bird came up with an interesting idea. They showed it to me, explained it to me, and I really liked the idea. So the idea is, rather than, build a wood or a metal handicapped ramp that, will have to zigzag, and look out of character for, an old building like it is. In the back of the building, the stairs are like here. They come down and the pavement is like this. And then when you get to where the playground is, the pavement is now back up here. So we actually have this low dip in here. And that is also part of the, adds to the drainage issues. So the idea is that rather than building a ramp to bring the steps down to this low pavement and then have people have to go back up to the higher pavement to where their cars are at, is that we build an earthen mound, I guess the way to explain it. I don't know. Kirk may be able to give us a lot better description. But basically, it would build an area of dirt, land, that will fill in that gap space and be at the right grade to satisfy the handicap requirements. So the advantages to that, as I see it, is that it's going to help improve our drainage. It's going to be something that looks more natural rather than a current built structure for the handicap accessibility. It will meet, the requirements, the handicap accessibility requirements. So Kirk, fortunately, talked to, I don't know, I'm going to get their name wrong, Bingham and Whitman?
Whitman and Bingham Associates.
Whitman and Bingham,
Atlanta,
which is an engineering firm. They're going to do a design, an engineered design for us at no cost on how we would build this and kind of what it would look like. So in talking with the engineer while he was there on Thursday or Friday, the discussion came up is on the back of the building, there are those windows that are down in the basement. And right now, there's a window well built around those. Originally, we had thought about just building concrete walls up to extend them above the windows so that we could bring the earth up against those. But after the engineer was there and really talked about it, building concrete structures, we don't know what the footings are like, so it's possible we'd have to dig down. We're just creating a lot of extra cost that's not really necessary. I mean, those windows are in a basement area. Most basements don't have full-size windows, especially when they're underground like these are. So the engineer is really recommending that if we wanted to pursue this project, that we should actually just board up those windows and eliminate them, rather than trying to spend money digging out and putting in footings and building concrete walls. Because once you build up a concrete wall that's 3 foot above the top of the window, you're not going to get any light through those windows anyway. So I really do think it's a good idea. I just wanted to bring the board up to date on that, see if anybody had any real issues if we were to pursue a plan that would, block off those windows permanently. Again, once we see the design, we'll have to vote on it as a board whether we like the design or not. If anybody has objections now, we could stop the engineers from, doing the design. So I don't know if Kirk wants to add anything else or.
I don't want to get too more technical than the amount of dirt theory.
Yeah.
Nice try, though. In a roundabout way, instead of, just like Doug said, rather than coming out the back door, going to the lower level, just to go back up to the upper level, it's really going to be a continuous grade from the threshold of the back door straight to the parking lot. So there actually won't be a mound, it'll just be a continuous grade from the back stoop straight out to the playground. It's kind of like an optical illusion because it only goes down about 2.5 feet, and the other one comes up 3 feet, and it's 5 feet deep. It's actually not. So we're just going to change it by grade. Like you said, you'll have no more handicap ramp. You'll be able to put whatever the ADA requirement is, 1 or 2 handicap parking spots right there, which can't exceed more than 2% grade. But we won't have an obstruction for forever to get hit by a snowplow or for somebody to drive into. We'll constantly be repairing it, what have you. The only thing is, like Doug had said, is that the best way to obtain it is to remove and block up the basement windows, and just like they were never there.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
Okay, so how does that affect the lighting in the basement, and are we ever gonna, there were classrooms down there, so A, how does it affect that, and then B, fire? Fire, another, I don't remember what's down there. So are there other means of egress?
There's really
or?
only 2 rooms down there. There's 2 rooms down there. There's what was the cafeteria, which currently has no windows today.
Okay.
And then there was the room that they used as the gym that had a stage. They've got rooms built around it. The stage doesn't have any windows either, so those classrooms that were down there had no windows. So the 6 windows that are there are in the big room that was a gym. Now, the only option if we did pursue this would be to build walls above the height. I mean, the wells that are there are currently like 3/4 of the way up the window. So you only have like 1/4 of the window that you're actually getting any light in now. If we ever did use that lower level for public meetings, I mean, we're going to have, fluorescent lighting down there. And most basements, I mean, I'm sure the basement in your houses probably don't have windows in the basement other than those little small windows up high. So, to me, I don't really see it being a problem.
Is there anything else? Yes.
major concern with blocking those windows up is the amount of moisture. Those windows were open at certain times of the year in order to help with the moisture problem down in that basement. There is also windows in the cafeteria area. They're much smaller windows. They're more like a basement window than that. So that's really why those windows were there. So if you block those off, you will probably end up increasing the amount of moisture in that large room.
Yes.
That could be a problem.
Yes.
Isn't it correct, and didn't I hear in this discussion with the engineer that by changing the lay of this land, you're going to be directing the water away from that back wall, therefore eliminating some of the moisture problems that we currently have, and thereby reducing some of the moisture problems?
That was the discussion we had with the engineer, that it would certainly improve the drainage and be able to move more water away from the building than currently happens today.
Yes, Chief.
This is my contractor voice rather than my fire chief voice. The only thing I'd caution you is that I believe the code requires a certain amount of air to come in through a basement window. Not necessarily a window, but it could be a vent. So you don't need the light, first of all, you just need the airflow. Second would be the waterproofing of the exterior walls for an interior habitable space. You may want to just look into those 2 points in your discussions.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I just had a quick question. If you decide to go this way, is this eliminating the Monty Tech coming in to do a ramp for the East Hampton School? Is that, weren't they coming in? Wasn't that going to be a school project for Monty Tech originally?
No, there's no guarantee that Monty Tech would do the project. I mean, Monty Tech, you have to schedule them, and I know in their next class season, because we've been using them over at the senior center, they're already booked for the complete next school year. So we would not have even gotten them in the time frame when we have to have the ramp, because we have to have the accessibility portion resolved by the 1st of September. So we would not have been able to utilize Monty Tech for that project anyway.
That's only 2 months away.
Right, that's why.
Yes, ma'am.
When I went to the police department one day with Sue,
in a wheelchair.
pushing her wheelchair up the ramp. Now you have to understand, ramps need care, they need to be painted, they need to be maintained. And well, I was taking care of it. And every time we went over a board, it went clunk, 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 clunk. So apparently, we're not too good at maintenance. So to do away with a ramp that's gonna need maintenance, and like Kirk says, to be hit by a plow, I don't think the windows in the cellar are a great asset. If we need a vent, we can always do a vent. But I think that your anthill idea is a very good one.
Right, and I agree. I don't like to be a pessimist, but just given the town's history of maintaining its capital assets, I think that the projects that we can build that require the least amount of maintenance possible are probably the better ones for us to manage moving forward. Yes?
Yeah, and I do want to say, for anybody, I mean, look at me, anybody who doesn't remember, last summer, I was 3 months in a wheelchair due to a horseback riding accident, and Deb's right. You know how many times she almost dumped me? I mean, and and I'll tell you,
The sidewalk was
being
good.
carried down in your wheelchair by the fire chief, Dave Smart, and who's the other one, Kevin Bird, can be pretty scary. So yeah, you're right, and they take maintenance, and I'll tell you, nobody does the maintenance for the handicapped accessible. So.
Yes, sir.
I think last year Will had a drawing done up of a earthen ramp that just comes straight out of the back of the building, not necessarily having to grade the whole backyard, but just straight back for the ramp for the handicap. I don't know, it sounds to me like what Will had in plan was to not do the windows up, keep the windows.
And that can be.
We did a ramp straight back from the stairs, right to the parking lot,
Well, it's also
Yeah,
taking
that
care
plan
of
was not an
drainage.
earthen ramp, it was
Yeah.
a metal ramp.
Yeah.
Which,
I think one of the first ones
yeah, I didn't see any of those.
was
then.
dirt. Wasn't it, Will? No, it was a metal ramp. It was an open ramp, which they have, it actually reduces the amount of maintenance because if it snows or whatever, it actually falls right through.
And I'm sure that when the engineers are looking at it too, we can make them aware of our concern with it, and they can tell us kind of a cost-benefit analysis for blocking the windows versus not blocking them, and kind of whether they think we'd be better off with moisture or without, so.
Yeah. And a lot of the, costs should be reduced because we already have the material. We'll have the engineered drawings, so that's a big chunk of the cost of doing a project like this.
And I know that some people will say, where the town already approved the money, why not just spend it? Well, you don't always have to spend every penny that the taxpayers say you can, so
Would
I
this
think
be
that.
something that the highway department could also take care of?
If we so choose to do that,
If that-
yes. Mhm.
Is there anything else? If not, we can move on to selectmen's comments. Julie, did you have anything you wanted to? I know it seems so quick.
Well-
We're there already.
In addition to the ramp, we also have to think about when we're going to go out to bid for the handicap bathroom
Yes.
for East Templeton. That has a deadline of December, but if we're going to go through the traditional process of putting it, getting it designed, central registry, that takes months to accomplish. So I think that's something that we should get started as well.
Yeah.
And I would also like to take a moment to recognize Jean Hernsdale.
Oh, yes.
And she served on a number of boards for the town.
Right. And if we could have a moment of silence, please, in her memory, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Is that something that we should vote on, or can we just, Bob, is that something that you can begin the process of, you and Holly, the going out to bid? Okay, great, thank you very much.
Well, I think in conjunction with that, the real question is, are we going to go out to bid and have whoever's bidding come up with the design? Or do we want to get a design that we then put that design out to bid and have people bid on completing that design? Because the options we have are is to retrofit the existing restrooms with a handicap, or using that cinder restroom and the closet, hopefully be able to make a handicapped restroom there. A couple of advantages to having it separate is you're then able to maintain your men's and women's, and you have a separate room that if a handicapped person needs assistance,
Right.
You've got that option. Engineering and architecture don't have to go out to bid, so we could hire someone to do that should we choose to, or we can just put the thing out as a design build type thing. So I think we need to make that decision or give Bob the
Sure.
direction of how we want to proceed with that.
Do you have a recommendation as to which you think would be more cost-effective and time-effective?
I think
or-
having a separate design
Yeah,
as
me too.
opposed to design build, you get a little less gold plating there.
Right, or marble.
So.
There is no marble.
That's what I would
But,
say.
You get everybody bidding on the same thing.
Right,
right,
right.
we can certainly have a process to solicit companies that could, or firms that, or individuals who can come in and give us the design.
Design.
Okay, 'cause I think that would be great. Okay. And then we'll put it on the agenda for our next meeting as well to kind of discuss the actual formal bid process and the specs. Okay, is that all, Julie?
Yes.
Doug, did you have anything you'd like to say under Selectmen's comments?
No, I mean, I just, the only thing I'd really like to say is that, the move did go well. Everybody really pitched in. We had the highway, and Alan was there also. We had, a number of volunteers. Tommy and his truck came. Rich and Mary were there. So it was, it was a good day. The move went pretty efficiently. The accounting folks are moving tomorrow. So it just came together real nicely, and I applaud everybody for
Yes.
The way they
Good work.
chipped in.
John, do you have anything that you would like to?
Yeah, just want to echo Julie's words about Gene Ernst. Gene and them were good personal friends, and they are sorely missed. They both did a lot for the town, and like I said, it is a loss. My comments on the move are, I think, in the past, when you see a project that is so volunteer-driven, they usually start off really gung-ho and then kind of peter out and die. And I think, you know, it's, we're fortunate to have the people that stayed with the whole thing and kept the process going. So we are appreciative of them. Also, I wanted to mention that we attended Chief Whitaker's retirement party on Friday night. It was a wonderful party and a good send-off for a good long-time employee.
Thank you very much. Diane, did you have anything that you would like to add? No? Okay.
And also, I
sorry.
thank Diane for speaking on behalf of.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
thank you as well.
Very eloquently.
Yes. I could not attend because I had family visiting, so, and trust me, you don't want to see them out in public, so no. And I really don't have I don't really have any comments. My only comment is that I know that it is fiscal New Year's tonight, so no fireworks. Everyone try to be safe, don't party too hard. But I am definitely glad to bid fiscal year 14 adieu and hope and pray for a much more stable and successful fiscal year 15. So if nothing else, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
What's our next meeting?
The next regularly scheduled one would be not next week, but the week after would be the 14th.
We have to do the 15th. He's booked here on Monday.
Okay, so 15th. Does anyone feel that would be too much of a gap? I mean, I'm fine with it. If something emergency comes up, we can always post it at 8 o'clock again. You know, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Tuesday, July 15th. Oh, and also I want to say thank you thank you to the Royers so much for hosting us and allowing us to be here. Thank you.
And I think you should also remind people of the special town meeting on the 10th.
Oh, yep, that's true as well. Don't forget about the special town meeting on July 10th. That will happen at the middle school in its usual location. So July 10th. We'll see you there. Now I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
All right.